It's 4 p.m. We're bringing developing news.
And the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Ed Lingao. Some stories you're watching this Wednesday, a hump day, November 20. President Bongbong Marcos announces that Jane Veloso is coming home and thanked his Indonesian counterpart Prabowo Subianto for his goodwill. But the DFA says there is no written agreement yet on Veloso's transfer to the Philippines. Veloso is a Filipino OFW convicted of drug trafficking back in 2010. She was sentenced to death in 2010, but was spared at the last minute in 2015 when her recruiters surrendered to authorities. President Marcos reaffirms his government's support for Ukraine's sovereignty as its war with Russia reaches its 1,000th day. Marcos also hopes for a peaceful resolution to the conflict in the region. Earlier, Ukraine used US-made missiles for the first time to target a Russian ammunition depot in the Bryansk region.
The House on Good Government panel has once again cited in contempt Office of the Vice President Assistant Chief of Staff Lemuel Ortoño due to his repeated absence. Vice President Sara Duterte was also not present at the hearing. The committee is investigating the confidential expenses of the OVP. Joining us today, on Zoom, not here in the studio, Storycon's resident political pundit, Ronald Llamas.
Good afternoon, Patrick, Ed, happy birthday, birthday boy.
Nakalusot ka ngayon, ha?
Birthday ba? Birthday? Birthday ba?
Okay, and
Happy birthday!
Ate lang yun.
And live from the Philippine Star headquarters, Editor-Chief Ami Pamintuan. Hello, Ami.
Hi!
Hello.
Hi, Patrick, Ronald, Ed, happy birthday! Birthday mo pala.
Hindi, every other year yun. Every other year.
Ronald, kaya napilitan ako samahan si Ed para hindi malukot. Kasi wala ka dito eh. Birthday na birthday, mag-isa siya. Nakakaya naman, di ba?
Patrick, dapat nandito si Ed sa Cebu. Nagsalita ako sa 400 na madre. Ang bait-bait ko.
Ano gusto mong palabasin?
Ang bait-bait ko. Hindi ako pwede...
Ex-seminarian eh, ex-seminarian.
Hindi ako pwede magbiro.
Kaya nga ex eh.
Well, curious ako, no? Hindi naman siguro tungkol sa gospel ang talk mo dyan sa kumbento ng mga madre. Ano pinag-usapan mo?
National situationer.
Aba?
Okay.
Walang kamatayang not sit.
Not sit. Yan yung term na tinuro sa amin ni Ronald. Nung college pa kami, not sit, national situationer. Na malaki na pinagbago. Ronald, the nuns are very interested in national situation, which is short for, politika ng bansa, no?
Yes. No? At hinamon ko sila to be more active. Lalo na sa ating education system na nagde-deteriorate. Sabi ko, habang 91% yung ating learning poverty, dapat yung simbahan ay mag-fill ng vacuum.
Okay.
Dahil mahalaga yung sitwasyon ngayon para sa education.
Ano naman yung sinabi mo sa mga audience mong madre tungkol sa lagay ng pambansang politika natin?
Sabi ko, kailangan natin ng... inulit ko yung nagsimula ako doon sa sinabi ni ex-human rights Harry Roque na tayo ay kailangan mamili sa puwersa ng kadiliman o puwersa ng kasamaan. Tawanan sila.
Kaya
Pero nagsimula. Sabi ko, dapat magkaroon ng alternative sa ating politika. Dahil puro dynasties at saka warlords sa pinagpipilian.
Okay. Teka lang, Ronald.
Pero ang opening ko, si Harry Roque.
Yun.
Puwersa ng kasamaan at puwersa ng kadiliman.
Versus. Choice.
Sa lahat naman nakakausaping political pundit o political analyst, ba't kaya si Ronald ang naimbitahan ng mga madre dyan sa Cebu? Ronald, bakit? Ba't ikaw?
Mukhang mahilig ang simbahan sa mga prodigal sons. Yun yung essence ng evangelization eh. Kailangan sagipin kaming makasalanan.
Yeah.
Sila Ed Lingao kasi hindi na kailangan sagipin eh, dahil banal na eh.
Talagang hindi na kailangan. Baka lalo pa silang masalba dahil sa kung ako nagpunta dyan, di ba?
Si Ami, hindi na kailangan sagipin yan dahil banal na.
Wow,
Si Patrick, hindi ko sigurado.
Thank you,
Patrick,
thank
hindi ko
you.
sigurado.
Well,
Okay.
alam mo, speaking of education, yung Chief of Staff ni VP Sara, ginigrill lang just a few minutes ago. I was watching si Zulaika Lopez. Kaso, karamihan sa mga sagot niya sa mga tanong, she is not aware. She has no personal knowledge of the paperwork that was supposed to be going through the office of the VP. Although siya yung chief of staff. So parang incredulous si Congresswoman
Basta yung congressman.
yung Congresswoman
Hindi makapaniwala. Hindi makapaniwala.
yung Abogado,
Na yung chief of
Wala
staff
pa ba
is...
si Piatos? Si Piatos hindi pa nagpakita?
Wala nasa 7-Eleven pa ata.
Alam mo, ewan ko kung may ready na material yung ating producer, no, si John, Enero. But we the basic research of going through Facebook and looking for a Mary Grace
oo.
Piatos. A lot of profile pictures came up. Maybe not too surprisingly. Ewan ko kung ready tayo dyan. Siguro, hintayin natin na.
Napaka-mysterious naman yan, Patrick. Napaka-mysterious, walang picture.
Hindi, meron yan. Meron ka. Yung mga tao na nanonood, baka pwede nyo, simple research on Facebook, just as a curiosity, kung sinong lilitaw, pag tinype in mo ang Mary
Wala.
Grace Piatos.
Marami.
Marami yan. Oo.
Pero disclaimer lang itong mga to hindi sila mga suspect These are just people who come up or come out if you search Mary Grace Piatos sa Facebook. Marami sila.
Iba-iba.
Some of them look like satire
maraming may pangalan.
accounts.
Some of them could have been created just because of what's happening sa Quadcom.
So,
Right.
Ed, maraming may pangalan na Piatos. Wala ko, rare na pangalan yun.
It would seem that most of them, Ronald, are satire accounts.
For example, yung una lalabas, Mary Grace Piatos, padding expert at OVP.
Ayun.
Office of the very pretty OVP.
At saka may kamukha.
Oo,
May kamukha.
Kalokohan yan eh.
May kamukha siya. Alam niyo na yun.
Kalokohan yan eh.
That's a satire page, obviously.
I guess kasi, di ba, the first question, Ami, is that, is Piatos a
Yeah.
common Filipino surname?
Hindi nga eh.
Pero bakit totoo?
Ang alam
May
lang ng
isang
mga
Mary Grace
Pilipino
Piatos,
na Piatos yung
digital creator,
kinakain.
4.3 thousand followers. May totoong, I guess totoo to.
Hindi natin alam. Hindi natin alam
But
po,
at 4.3 thousand followers, hindi ganyan kabilis makakuha ng followers.
One letter T lang siya eh.
Ang ano.
Di ba? Hindi
Isang
double
tao
T
lang,
eh.
pwedeng gumawa niyang 14,000 na yan.
Oo.
May bata pa, lives in Makati. Anyway, marami siya. Itong isa, sino itong cartoon character niya?
Si
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch. Yeah.
Wala akong kilalang taong may apelidong Piatos dito sa Pilipinas.
Ako rin.
Uy, pero wag niyong tuturuan itong mga to kasi we don't know kung may mga totoong tao dito. So, wag niyong kukulitin. Mga kawawa naman. Basta what we're just saying is that their accounts.
Meron din daw, meron daw isa pa.
Ano?
Via Mare Cheetos. Cheetos naman yung last name niya. First name niya, Via Mare.
Dati nga, Ami, may gumawa ng Facebook account ko eh. Ang picture profile, AK-47.
Ayun.
Baka ikaw yun.
Oo.
Baka ikaw talaga yun.
Baka ikaw gumawa na.
Hindi, si Ronald mahiwagang tao yan.
Hindi ako
Hindi mo
marunong
masa-search
gumawa
sa Facebook yan.
Oo.
Walang footprint niya sa Facebook.
Andyan
Yan.
din yun. Pero iba ang pangalan.
Oo, nakatago yan. Parang yung sa kasama natin, nung matagal na tinroll, nagtago sa pangalang
Si
Ricardo
Smokes.
Dalisay.
Ricardo Dalisay.
Yun.
Siguro to.
For the longest time, ang identity po niya sa Facebook ay Ricardo Dalisay. Kasi na-troll po
Hinihintay
yan si
namin
Manny
yung
Mugate.
press conference ni VP Sara. Natuloy na ba?
Ah?
Kanina pa nakaschedule
Talaga?
2 p.m. eh.
Talaga?
Alas 2
natin.
pa ng hapon naka-schedule.
OVP?
Pero mukhang hindi po. Siguro hinihintay matapos muna yung hearing.
Ay, malamang ganun yun. Kasi, di ba,
Para
masagot
makapag-respond
mo.
siya, no?
Ami, may balita ba kayo dyan sa Philippine Star tungkol dito sa sitwasyon o kaso ni ni Mary Jane
Veloso.
Yes.
Veloso. Magiging masaya bang Pasko ng kanyang pamilya? Will it be a happy
merong
Christmas?
story na lumabas na yung mother. Nag-aalala actually na dito siya dadalhin sa Pilipinas.
Nag-aalala?
Mukhang mas maganda, ang tingin nila maganda trato dun sa Indonesia kay Mary Jane.
May ganun pala.
Oo.
Should
Di ba,
rather
di ba
be in
pinag-usapan
jail
din
in
natin
Indonesia?
Yung kahapon? Oo.
That's a
Na mas
different
maganda
angle.
yung sitwasyon doon unless na ma-pardon siya dito. Na medyo mahirap dahil hindi naman dito yung offense eh. Hindi ko alam kung how
we
will
didn't
that
expect that
work.
angle.
Nakakagulat,
Honestly, we did not expect that angle.
Oh.
Kung makukulong
Ami,
lang
naalala
din,
mo,
doon na lang kaysa dito. Yun.
Naalala mo yung statement ni President Digong noong September 2016?
Yes.
If
Okay,
you
let's go
want
back.
to execute her, do so. Sinabi niya.
Hindi,
sabi nung
he
mga
had to be
Malaysian,
consistent kasi ganun siya, hardliner siya sa drugs eh. Tapos ayan, merong mule na nagdala ng 2 kilo na 2 kilong heroin yan. It's not a minor
2.6
small-time
kilos,
drug.
so-
So this is from The Guardian.
Ronaldo,
Yes.
to.
8 years ago.
2016 of September.
September 2016 yan.
Indonesia says Duterte has given its permission to execute Mary Jane. First, let's quote a quote from Joko Widodo, yung Pangulo dati ng Indonesia. Ito yung quote niya. President Duterte said, please go ahead if you want to execute her. The Indonesian President Joko Widodo said on Monday. The report left many in the Philippines in shock. Pero si Abella, ang tagapagsalita ni Duterte, strongly denied that the President gave the go-ahead. Ang quote ni Abella, there was no endorsement. He simply said, follow your own laws, I will not interfere.
More or less, which is
nga.
more or less the same.
Siya, it's just half empty or half full. I don't know. Parang gano'n.
It's just a
Hindi
phrasing,
niya pipigilan.
Hindi niya pipigilan.
Hindi
Follow
niya
your own
pipigilan.
laws.
Ang sentence death Ibig sabihin, he is going along with it.
Well, yeah, ganun.
He will not interfere. He will not interfere. Yeah, I think that's the
Hindi
essence
niya
of it.
pipigilan. Otherwise, he would have appealed, di ba? He would
Right.
have appealed. Pero sa ngayon naman, merong mga tao na nagsasabi, baka daw pwedeng i-grant nga ni President Marcos ng clemency. Pagdating dito, kaya medyo hindi ko kabisado yung ganyan. Paano ko na-convict? Paano kung ganyang hindi ko alam kung may prisoner swap yan Paano kung na-convict sa ibang bansa pagdating dito, pwede bang i-pardon ng gobyerno natin? So, I'm not sure about the rules dyan.
Yung kasalanan niya sa Indonesia, hindi naman dito.
Sa Indonesia yun
Medyo
Smuggling, drug smuggling yun sa Indonesia.
And it's also a major offense.
If ever ang mangyari, Ronald, would be a change of custody. Parang ganun ang mangyayari.
Yes.
There will be a turnover of custody from Indonesia to the Philippines. Parang ganun.
Pero usually kasi, pag limawa tayo, wala tayong death penalty, kung merong Pilipino na nakasuhan o na-convict for death penalty sa ibang bansa, nagne-negotiate tayo, nag-a-appeal tayo. Ganon din ang ginagawa ng mga Europeans dahil walang death penalty sa Europe. So they negotiate.
Ito mukhang
Kaya yun ang mangyayari pag dito siya, yun, spared from death, pero life term yan sa atin, sa batas natin That's more than almost 3 kilos na.
Ayaw yung
Sobrang dami niyan.
jail conditions.
No.
Yun lang.
Ayaw na nga.
Parang ayaw lang na magulo
Yun na nga, yun ang
yung prison
problema.
conditions dito sa atin. Yan.
I'll quote from the Indonesian Coordinating Ministry. Ang sabi ng Indonesian Coordinating Ministry, if the request, which means the request for transfer, is granted, Mary Jane Veloso will continue to serve her remaining sentence in the Philippines subject to the conditions determined by the Indonesian court's ruling.
So may mga requirements sila, may mga conditions sila before
Which is
turning
of
over
2010.
custody. So this is going to be a government-to-government, Ronald, let's say president-to-president negotiation or agreement, right?
Yes.
Between two friendly countries, I suppose, no? Kaya may ganitong klaseng special arrangement na mangyayari, if at all. Ronald, my question is, given how, the diplomatic track record of this administration, and also considering yung what has been our friendly ties with Indonesia, historically, do you think matutuloy ito?
Tingin ko, especially with the new government, gustong magpabango sa atin, si Prabowo. So tingin ko ay matutuloy yan. For friendly relationship.
Yon, good neighborliness.
Di ba yung magre-request ng prisoner swap? Ronald,
Pwede rin
pwede.
yun. Pero dito mukhang hindi naman ganun eh. Mukhang dito hindi naman ganun.
So this is going to count as a favor from Indonesia to the Philippines, if at all.
Yes, parang goodwill. Parang
goodwill.
goodwill lang. No? Na, dahil nag-request tayo, wala tayong death penalty, baka pwedeng una ay wag nyo naman i-implement yung death penalty. Kalawa,
Okay.
baka pwedeng sa amin na tapusin yung kanyang prison terms.
Do you see, Ronald, do you see a possible quid pro quo with Indonesia? Is there something foreseeably na kailangan ng Indonesia from the Philippines in exchange?
So far wala namang indications na gano'n. So far. Of course, in the future, pag sila naman yung nag-request sa atin, pwede rin natin silang pagbigyan.
Ayun. Oh.
Pero for now, walang ganong klaseng quid pro quo.
Bok, sorry, I have to break in kasi si Congressman Robert Barber ang lead chairman ng House Quadcom is already on the line. Let's bring him in already. Sir, magandang hapon, Congressman Barber, and thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Ay, magandang
Hi,
hapon sa
Congressman.
inyo. Magandang hapon, Ami. Magandang hapon, Ed. Secra, Ronald, and Patrick. Magandang hapon po rin sa ating mga kababayan.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Sir,
Magandang hapon, Kong.
sir, makibalita muna kami kay Garma. Di ba, si Garma was released on the condition, I think, that she will make herself available if and when she is needed by the committee. At tapos bigla tumakbo ng US. I'm wondering, once she comes home, or once she gets home from detention sa US, what's the plan of the committee? Will she be detained again, or do we give her the benefit of the doubt and let her still go free?
Well, yung contempt orders that we imposed on her was already lifted, no? When
Yes, sir.
we allowed her when she was set free, ika nga, no? And with the condition that anytime she will be called for a committee hearing, dapat she will make herself available. And
Yes,
she
sir.
committed and she promised to us, no? Na pupunta siya. So far, wala pa kaming invitation para sa kanya because remember when she was invited in relation to the Barayuga case.
Yes, sir.
And unless there are new evidence or evidences that will come out or any testimony that will point to her again, then we will have to call her so that we can also get her side. So far, wala pa naman Ed.
So you see no reason to have her detained at this point once she gets back to the Philippines?
Yes, well, she will still enjoy her freedoms, so to speak, no. Nandoon lang siya sa kanila, and in fact, we even offered to her. Sabi namin sa kanya, kung gusto mo, you can stay on. No, if you're worried about your safety and your family's safety, after you've given your testimony to the committee, then we can offer to you a much longer stay in your detention facility. So that's the reason why when she told us that she will just make herself available, sinabi naman niya, and she's committed to do that, so we allowed her.
Pero di ba,
Pero Congressman, may balita ngayon na she's applying daw for she's
Asylum?
applying for asylum. Political asylum in the US. Merong balita ngayon na ganon. Meron ba kayong confirmation about it? Any word about it na umaabot din sa Quadcom? Kasi hanggang ngayon wala pa siya rito eh. Kung i-deport siya, dapat nandito na yan eh. Medyo matagal na yan ah.
Oh, yeah, I think yun nga, naghihintay din kami kung kailan ang balik niya because we were not yet informed kung ano ng status, kung totoo nga ba nag-a-apply siya for asylum. I think she communicated to the DOJ about that request, hindi sa Quadcom. So that's why wala pa kaming information.
Kong, di ba parang in bad faith yun, yung pagpunta niya sa US, batay sa agreement nyo na she should be accessible to the Quadcom. Di ba bad faith yun na pumunta siya sa Amerika? At buti na lang, may Magnitsky Act ang Amerika at hinold siya ron. Mukhang Magnitsky Act yung ginamit dyan eh. Mga human rights violation niya. Kahit hindi pa proven.
Yes, I think yun nga ang ginamit na basis for her temporary detention sa immigration sa US. Kasi nga yung Magnitsky Act. I think, yes, you're correct, no? In bad faith dahil wala naman sa usapan na lalabas siya ng bansa. But when we heard that she was already in the US and was detained there, sabi nung abogado niya rito, parang temporary visit. And I think babalik din naman daw. No? Parang ganun yung information na pinarating sa amin.
Pero kung alam naman niya na suspended yung kanyang visa eh.
Oo nga eh.
Alam niya
Actually, sir,
na na yun eh. Bakit tumuloy pa rin siya? So,
Yun
medyo
nga,
asylum nga daw.
Ako, I think,
Mag-asylum nga daw.
kasi when
Ngayon
the
pa na
first
si
time,
Trump ang presidente, mahihirapan siya mag-asylum.
oo nga. Actually, nung first time she was denied entry to the US, nung dumaan siya
to
sa Japan.
August.
I
Japan.
think she was not given the reason why she was denied entry. So siguro probably na feeling niya na baka meron lang because she has not yet given her testimony. Baka akala niya ang Quad ang may pakana doon sa doon sa wala ho kaming kinalaman doon sa kanyang visa sa US. And you know that we don't have any powers to either influence the denial or the approval of her entry to the US.
Pero sir, let me change gears naman. When she gets back to the Philippines, whenever that is, do you mean to say that the House will not put any obstacle for her leaving the country again? Sabi nga ninyo, there's no reason to have her in detention at this point. So pag nakabalik siya dito, ibig sabihin she's still free to leave again for maybe another country where she has a visa or ganun.
Kasi lumabas na siya nung huli namin siyang nilift ng contempt sa kanya at nag-promise naman siya, a-appear siya. Dapat humingi rin kami ng commitment sa kanya na hindi na siya lalabas ng bansa at any given time while the hearing is not yet terminated. So we will make that clear as soon as makipag-coordinate sa amin si Colonel Garma at saka yung kanyang abogado.
That she needs to ask for
Baka
permission.
baka yung DOJ ang pwedeng maglagay sa kanya sa watchlist or hold departure order kung balak nilang magsampa ng kaso dun sa Barayuga case.
Yes, I think kaya siguro biglang umalis. Kasi alam niyang wala pa yatang kasong na ifa-file. But ngayon with her temporary detention in the US, I think she was made a respondent dun sa human rights violation at saka money laundering so baka yun ay maging basis na hindi na siya talaga makakaalis.
Congressman, change gears lang ako ipapatawag niyo pa ba uli si former President Duterte?
Siguro sa next hearing namin, baka hindi pa ito ang next na invitation namin sa kanya because we will hold our last hearing for the Pogo and then yung drugs, yung EJK, doon namin siya ulit tatawagin pag na-set na namin ulit yan, Ami.
Congressman, may specific ba kayong gustong i-clarify? Kasi 13 hours na yung appearance niya the first time Ano pa yung mga points na gusto niyong tanong sa kanya?
Yung tungkol doon sa that's correct, no? 13 hours ang kanyang and sinabi naman daw niya ng lahat ng dapat niyang sabihin at dapat daw malaman ng Quadcom. But some of the members are actually wanting to see him again kasi hindi pa sila nakapagtanong. Unong umabot na ng bandang medyo late in the evening, yung ibang mga members ay umuwi na rin at hindi na rin nakapagtanong, thinking na meron pa namang second round. So siguro yun. And we will have to ask them again kung sino pa yung gusto magtanong at ano yung tatanong para maging basis namin if iimbitahan pa namin siya ulit sa susunod na pagdinig.
Congressman, any insights on that previous hearing on how it went? May mga insight or learnings po ba kayo?
Well, aside from the extrajudicial confessions that he made, outside of what he made in the Senate, parang nadagdagan lang yung kanyang mga sinabi na kung saan ay merong sort of a confirmation na merong reward doon sa ginawang war on drugs at saka doon sa point na meron talagang mga police o mga law enforcers na talagang umabuso. Kahit siya mismo inamin din naman niya na may umabusong mga kawani ng Philippine National Police sa pag-implement nito. And when he was asked kung ito ba ay resulta nung iyong reward money at yung iyong order na magkaroon ng quota, he vehemently denied that there was a relation between yung reward money at saka yung pagkakaroon ng abuso ng ibang pulis, which we all naman accepted as a reasonable reasonable reply to the question.
Okay, you mentioned extrajudicial statements made by the former president at the Quadcom hearing. Does this mean that none of those statements made, may nabanggit kayo, short of admitting to certain things, none of them can be used in court or in a case?
I think it will be the DOJ that will determine that. Remember, all these statements he made are statements under oath, no? So I am sure that there is value to that statements that he made. So if the DOJ would find this, will find this with the weight, no? Siguro baka baka magamit nila ito.
Pero sir, to that point
So,
na...
kung wala na nangyari doon sa waiver, wala na talagang chance yung pipirma siya sa waiver. Tapos na yun.
Wala nang chance talaga Sec Ronald kasi I think he was asked 3 times nung gabing yon, and the first answer was he was willing to sign. The second answer is conditional. Yung last answer ay sinabi niya hindi na pwede kasi it's a conjugal, it's a joint account between me and my wife, no? So and nung yun yung huling tanong kung willing ba siyang pumirma, sinabi niya talagang hindi na siya makakapirma.
Okay, yung conditional ata, condition doon yung sampal.
Isa pal.
Yun ata yung mahirap naman yun.
Pumayag naman yung isa.
Yun yung conditional.
Pumayag naman yung isa. Pero sir, there was talk earlier of inviting former Deputy Ombudsman Arturo Carandang to shed light doon sa sa kanyang investigasyon doon sa bank accounts noong 2016. Unfortunately, nasibak si Carandang, dismissed from service with forfeiture of all benefits. I'm wondering kung itutuloy ninyong invitation kay Carandang, and if you've heard from the guy already, or is he, I don't know, is he incognito?
Yes, there was a motion to invite former Deputy Ombudsman sa next Quadcom hearing, and the invitation was sent. No, I think he has already received it, but he has not replied yet. We're still waiting. Since na-postpone itong aming hearing, supposedly for tomorrow. We will move it for next Wednesday. Siguro to give more time to the other resource persons to reply to our invitation. So yes, we will definitely ask kung ano yung kinalaman niya doon sa sinabi ni former Senator Trillanes tungkol doon sa investigation na ginawa niya dun sa Office of the Ombudsman.
Kasi I read back in 2016, ang interview kay Carandang in several media outlets was him saying na they've seen the AMLAC documents, not the report, the AMLAC documents. Wala pang AMLAC report at that time. The AMLAC documents which appear to show that there were at least 1 billion pesos being moved around in the accounts, at least. Tapos doon na nagtapos lahat dahil nasibak na siya later on.
Yes, yung kasing na-present sa Quadcom, we cannot take it as an evidence at the moment.
Okay.
We will take note of the information that was shared to us, but as far as using it as a documentary evidence, mukhang mahihirapan kami kasi there must be some sort of authentication and certification either coming from the AMLAC or from the banks mismo. Absent that, mukhang mahirapan kami gamitin ito at siguro we would just manifest that there was information that was shared to the Quadcom about that.
Actually, sir, I also meant to ask that kasi is AMLAC also going to be invited, and can the committee or can the Congressional Committee ask for documents from the AMLAC, or is it covered by the Bank Secrecy Law? Kasi I understand, in November 2016, mga 2 months after nagsalta tong si Carandang, the Ombudsman had to close the investigation because of the refusal daw of AMLAC to provide additional documents to the Ombudsman. That's the Ombudsman, Hindi na raw nagbigay ng karagdagang dokumentong AMLAC, kaya nagsara sila ng investigasyon dahil walang patutunguhan. I'm wondering kung ano yung power ng Congressional Committee in terms of asking AMLAC for documents.
Yes, oo. Yun nga, when the information was shared to the committee, nakita natin na mayroong mga transactions doon, alleged transactions between the names that were all listed there, no? Yung pangalan ni VP Sara at saka pangalan ni former President Duterte at yung mga kapatid, no, yung mga siblings ni VP Sara. So yun, merong bank secrecy law, mahirap gamitin ito bilang isang ebidensya sa ginagawang investigasyon ng Quad Committee unless otherwise makakuha tayo ng certification mula sa mga bangko mismo or at least dun sa Anti-Money Laundering Council.
Yes, sir.
Certifying na
note,
totoo itong mga
Congressman.
dokumentong ito. Yeah.
On a different note,
Yeah.
Congressman, no, pero related dito sa AMLAC at saka bank secrecy laws. Meron bang balita dyan tungkol sa impeachment? Paano during impeachment lang kasi pwedeng isuspend yung bank secrecy laws at coordinate yung AMLAC tungkol dyan sa mga accounts na yan. Kaya may balita ba tungkol sa impeachment?
Walang balita sa Ronald, no, na tungkol sa impeachment dito sa kasalukuyan. In fact, just as we speak ngayon ay patuloy yung investigation ng Committee on Good Government, no, doon sa confidential funds ng ating pangalawang pangulo. I really don't know and I haven't heard any talks about impeachment at the moment dito sa mababang kapulungan.
Okay.
Congressman, yung investigation nyo is in aid of legislation. Sa revival niyang issue na yan, sa tingin nyo merong political will ngayon sa House to pass yung matagal nang hinihingi ng gobyerno, i-ease daw or i-lift yung bank secrecy law?
Merong pag-uusap na naumpisahan about siguro 3 months ago tungkol dyan. Pero hindi pa rin na isa sa papel, no, o wala pa ring panukalang batas, no, na pwedeng itulak tungkol dito. But we're open for discussion. In fact, we have to set some limitations as well. Kasi mukhang maring hindi maging maganda, no, ang magiging epekto sa lahat po ng depositors kapag nagkaroon ng ganito. Kailangan meron ho tayong isang legal na basihan at meron pong isang insidente or I don't know how to say it. Meron sigurong isang basihan na mabigat na kung saan ay magiging dahilan para ipasa itong exemptions dito sa bank secrecy law.
Pero sir, sorry, follow up lang. So, pero yung House Congressional Committee hearings, they're not covered by the exemptions, no? Sa AMLAC bank secrecy law and the bank secrecy law. I mean, can you ask AMLAC for documents or hindi rin pwede?
Hindi rin pwede
Hindi
kasi
pwede, no?
for the AMLAC to release documents pertaining to a bank records of an individual, kailangan merong predicate crime, merong kaso. The Court of Appeals will issue the authority to the AMLAC to release these documents, but there must be a case. There must be an ongoing case. Second, may mga predicate crimes that should have been committed before the documents will be released.
Yeah. I understand, sir.
Doon sa mga nagre-request. So far wala naman pong kaso, wala pa rin pong information. I have no idea at the moment kung meron nga bang pinag-iisipang i-file na kaso dyan sa investigation na yan.
Okay, Congressman Barber, thank you for joining the Storycon.
Thank you, sir.
We've got the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the Story Conference. I'm Patrick Paez.
I'm Ed Lingao, and of course with us, aming pamintuan of the Philippine Star, and Tito Rol Llamas, our political pundit. Yan,
Na nasa kumbento.
Generic.
Kasalukuyan
Nasa
nasa kumbento para magsagawa ng teach-in sa mga madre dyan sa Cebu.
At next month naman, nasa Vatican. Kaya niyo yun?
Talaga, kailangan mo yan. Naintindihan namin yung kalagayan. Kailangan mo yan.
May tawag dyan, di ba? Indulhensya. Tama ba yan?
Indulhensya.
Tama ba yan? The ex-seminarian.
Indulhensya yan. Para ano ka? Para maambunan ka naman ng konting grasya.
Mabawasan.
Pabawasan, no?
Pampabawas ang
Yung mga
kasalanan.
malaking pangangailangan ng ganyan, talagang kailangan ng
Ang kailangan ko yung self-indulgences, yung mawawala yung lahat ng kasalanan ko for a fee. Di ba nung Middle Ages
Oo.
may gano'n?
Oo, ganun. May,
Diba?
Middle Ages
Hindi
ba yun? Wala
kasalanan
naman
mo.
meron pa rin yan.
Sa
I think
Pilipinas meron
oh,
nun.
sorry. I think technically there still is. Nandiyan pa rin yan. Pero siguro wala nang masyadong naniniwala o
Teka,
gumagawa.
mapapaaway ka niyan.
Ganun. Sorry po.
Meron din sa Pilipinas niya na, di ba? Sinulat nga ni Rizal eh.
Oo nga, oo. Kaya nga hindi Middle Ages eh.
Hanggang ngayon, meron pa rin yan.
Si Patrick sabi na taga-US yan.
Kwento lang sa akin.
Oo nga.
Okay, o sige.
Pinag-usapan namin kanina ni Ed, Ami, Ronald, yung tungkol sa latest development from the US. Los Angeles has passed an ordinance declaring the city as an immigrant sanctuary.
Takbuhan ng mga ano.
Buwan ng mga ano.
Galing,
Illegal
This is in
immigrants.
response to pronouncements from Trump the day before that he will
Use the
declare a
military.
state of
Use the
emergency
military.
and use the military to enforce yung campaign promise yan na mass deportation. Yun.
Oh.
Pero paano yun? Lulusubin niya yung Los Angeles ng military?
Ay, tingnan natin,
Kasi Bok, there are two laws at play here. Eh. One is the Posse Comitatus Act, which prevents it's a one-liner law, which prevents the government from using the military to enforce law enforcement rules or laws, unless there is an exemption. However, there's also the Insurrection Act, which is the exemption.
Ayun. Oo.
Once the president invokes the Insurrection Act, then he can deploy the military to enforce local laws with or without the permission of the governor.
And there has been instances in the past
In the
where it has
past.
happened.
Oh,
Example?
as early as George Herbert Walker Bush, and further down, yung desegregation ng schools sa US in the 1950s and 60s. Eisenhower, JFK, and si Johnson
Called in the National Guard to
federalize
enforce-
them and made
Yes.
them make sure na makapasok yung mga itim sa mga eskwelahan kasi ayaw ng mga gobernador na papasukin sila.
Right. So we might see, I mean, that's the plan to use the National Guard. Na normally the National Guard falls under the command of the state governors, but if the president, based on the
Until
Insurrection
they're
Act, or
federalized.
he said he will declare a state of national emergency, he can
National
use
emergency,
the
yun daw ang
military.
i-invoke niya eh. Pero
Enforce the
military
position.
gagamitin.
Presidente si Trump na
Oh.
tumanggi yung military na makialam dun sa dispersal ng isang rally sa Washington, D.C. Ang sabi ng military, hindi namin role yan.
Pero ano yan freedom of expression
Pero, Rona,
yan eh.
a lot has-
Ito,
a lot has happened.
national security. National security invoke niya eh. Yun ang sinasabi niya dyan sa immigration na yan eh. Threat to national security, kaya siya magna-national emergency. Iba yung rally, that's freedom of expression, madaling matalo yan sa US eh. Ito yung medyo malabo kung ano tong gagawin niya
National
ngayon.
security na to.
Security gagamitin niya eh. Kaya titignan natin kung paano
But
yan.
also, I mean,
Kasi even other countries sa Western Europe, tinitingnan ko ano mangyayari sa US eh. Dahil may problema din sila sa immigration.
But I mean, the
And it's
thing
a
kasi with
political issue as well.
the thing with the Insurrection Act is that it's so vaguely worded that there is no
Exactly.
actual definition of what constitutes an
Insurrection.
emergency or even an insurrection. So, and the Supreme Court has left it to the President to decide when applicable ang Insurrection Act.
But the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court, is very conservative right
Yeah,
now.
very conservative.
The position is very conservative. And to your point, Ed, insurrection, and yet, it's an Insurrection Act. And yet, it was used to...
Civil rights. And
It was used it was used against segregation.
in the
iba
civil
yun.
rights
Kung
movement
nagamit
in
siya
the
for
50s,
segregation,
60s.
magagamit siya siguro. Conceivably, it can be used. Conceivably, arguably, it can be used for deportation.
By 3 presidents.
Naalala niyo ba, Ed,
Mabigo to.
nung February 2006, nung nagdeklara ng state of emergency si GMA, tapos
Ay, oo.
nung umakyat sa Supreme Court, sabi ng Supreme Court, 3 lang ang pwedeng dahilan for state of emergency. A state of insurrection, uprising, invasion, or state of lawlessness. Kaya nireject ng Supreme Court yung state of emergency. Medyo may kaunting similarity. Dahil yun din ang dahilan na para lamang sa state of emergency, insurrection. At sabi nila, noong February, walang state of insurrection.
Okay, that's
Actually, nakulong pa kami ron eh.
Philippine jurisprudence, Ronald. But again, an example in which the president was able to use the National Guard was for segregation, desegregation.
Yes.
So you can argue na there was no insurrection in the 60s during the civil rights movement, and yet the National Guard was called in to enforce.
By three presidents, by three presidents in separate instances.
Except that in this case now, it's going to be used by left, right left, right, conservative, liberal.
Segregation,
Noong
segregation.
May mga Ku Klux Klan na naglilynching, di ba? May mga Ku Klux Klan nun kaya baka yun yung ginamit ng dahilan. Armado yung mga Ku Klux Klan nun
Still, Ronald, not an insurrection. I mean, by the definition that we all know. I think suffice it to say, given the huge political mandate that this president has coming in, we can imagine that he will use that political capital, Ronald, to push some radical measures.
Would be interesting lang to
on
see,
his first year, on his first months in
Saka
office.
isang problema nun, yung mga pulis nun, kakampi ng mga kakampi ng mga racist sa local government.
Yeah.
Diba?
Yeah.
Yun yung isang, kaya hindi nila magamit yung pulis.
Yeah. But it would be interesting to see rin, how the U.S. military would react or act if they're called in to start making arrests and deportation. Kasi for the longest time, very sticking U.S. military pagdating sa whether or not it will be involved in political acts or political issues.
Right. But if you have a president who's been saying that there's been an invasion going on in the southern border, he counts it in those terms. There's an invasion going on in the southern border. I mean, let's face it, the mood during Trump 1 is different from the mood that we see coming into Trump 2. Ronald, di ba? Dun nga sa when they break down the votes, Trump gained ground with blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and everybody, even women. Hindi niya nakuha majority, but he gained ground. So iba, and I understand that immigration, apart from the economy, was a big factor in the results decided these elections. Yun.
Pero nagulat ako, Patrick, doon sa exit polls 11% lang yung immigration. 35% yung state ng US democracy, 34% yung economy.
Okay.
So medyo bumaba yung immigration doon sa exit polls.
Okay, so ang mataas, Ronald, but American polls don't have a very good track record.
Kaya nga, yan
Diba?
nga, sabi nga nila.
They've been
daw.
missing it since 2016. Diba? American polls.
Pero ito,
Tight race daw, it was a rout. It was a rout.
Hindi, kaya nga sinasabi nila why it's a rout because of the inflation, which is the economy. At saka yung mga cases laban kay Trump. Yun yung state of US democracy. It is not anti-Trump, it is pro-Trump. Yung mga bumoto sa kanya.
Yung concern pala for
yung exit polls medyo accurate, but dahil yung sinasabi na state of American democracy was in support of Trump na siya ay kinasuhan. Yun yung ibig sabihin nun. Tapos yung economy na 34%
So it
was about
backfired?
inflation.
So this whole thing that when they charged him and they said that he was the first felon to run for president,
Yes. Pabor sa kanya
it
yun.
actually backfired on him.
Yes.
Backfired
For him.
on the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. No, that
Okay,
was
Bok.
not the calculation.
Sayang, we were trying to get Yusek De Vega of DFA for the Mary Jane Veloso story, pero we're unable to get in touch with him right now. Anyway, I think that's it for today. We're out of time. Maraming salamat for joining Storycon today. Ami pamintuan ang bossing ng Philippine Star, Tito Rol Llamas, ang bossing ng mga pundits. At join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the Storycon. Humabol pa ako, no? I'm Lingao.
Oh, Ronald James ang kilabot. Ang kilabot ng
mga
YouTube.
pundits, oo.
Ang kilabot sa YouTube. Yan.
Mga madre.
Dumadami treatment.
Kilabot ng mga madre ngayon.
Kilabot ng mga madre.
Parang
May
hindi
dagdag ka na ngayon.
Hindi maganda yung hugot na yun, Abi.
Hindi pa, ayaw niya. Ayaw niya yun.
Mga madre.
Pandit ng mga madre. Yan.
Ay, teka.
Happy
Mas
birthday!
pangit pakinggan.
Erase. Baka matrouble tayo dyan.
Happy birthday, Ed. Happy
Okay.
birthday.
Next year pa. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Bok. I'm Patrick Paez, and we are One News, all sides, all the time. This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.